Have you fallen down the cottage industry rabbit hole yet? Well, if not, buckle up, Alice, and click on over to the description in the show notes and sign up. Then you can get ready for the most fun induction into the cult of all things yarn and fiber. This will include, but not limited to, free yarn, free ebooks, patterns, coupons, and much more. You don't want to miss out.
You are listening to Crime, Coffee, and Crafts, a podcast featuring two crafty besties who love true crime and a good cup of joe.
Hey, amateur sleuths. I'm Kristen.
And I'm Heidi. Or that's better.
Welcome back.
Welcome. Welcome to the family.
Yeah. We last episode did a lot of mafioso history.
I mean, it's amazing. I might have
Who doesn't love?
I might have to watch Goodfellas after this.
Oh, that's one of my faves.
I fucking love that movie so much.
But you could also watch The Iceman. It's a pretty good
really
movie.
good. It is good. Maybe I'll watch the documentaries.
Oh, he is something else.
Then I'll get creeped out probably.
I'm not able to tell in detail things about our cases to David. Like he likes to know what we're talking about, but he can't listen to the details.
I just walked in and Ben was watching a DC movie, and it was like a tribe of people. Like one guy got pushed off a fucking cliff, and like it's like video, right? And it's like he's hitting the rocks below.
Yeah,
I'm like, I was like, I suddenly don't feel bad watching true crime with you in the room.
Yeah,
because none of it is as brutal as watching that,
right?
It's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so
anyways, we're back, and you have another underrepresented missing case.
Yes. Jasmine May Larionov or Larionov. I'm not sure how it's said, but I'm saying it multiple ways just in case.
Right.
American Indian, Alaska Native. She went missing at 28 years old. 28, just a baby.
Yeah, that's so sad.
She's 5'4", 150 pounds. Last contact was May 9th, 2022, this year, the day before my birthday.
Oh, wow.
She was last seen in Houston, Alaska.
I learned something new today. I did not know there was a Houston, Alaska.
Yeah, that's like the day I learned out there was a San Diego in Florida. I was like, what?
Oh, yes. And in Texas, I believe.
That's very disturbing to me.
Yeah.
Those are my least favorite states, those two.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jasmine left her mother's residence in Houston, Alaska around noon on May 9th, 2022, and hasn't been seen or heard from since. Hair color is blonde, strawberry blonde, and looking at her picture, that's not natural. Right. From what I see of the picture, she looks like she had a ton of like highlights and stuff. Okay. So her hair looks to be like a darker, medium to dark brown, maybe. Brown eyes. No distinctive physical features, no tattoos on here. She was last wearing a white hoodie and a black leather jacket. And that's all we know. It's so sad because there's just no information on a lot of these.
Like, are the families not able to give anything.
I don't think there is any more like known circumstances or anything like that.
I feel like nowadays there's so much that we can find more information. So please, if anyone has any information, go give that. Go give the tips.
Please do. It is an epidemic. It has been an epidemic for a very long time. Yeah. Like a really fucking long time, especially up in Alaska.
Right.
And like the Northwest, Montana, Washington, those areas, Wyoming, Northern Idaho.
Unfortunately, in those great states
and Canada,
where there's vast, just
empty land,
and it's very easy to get lost,
reservation, lots of tribal affiliation, and girls are just going missing, rampant. It's bad.
Yeah.
All right. Rant over.
Please help.
Please help. All right. Who's ready for part 2?
I am. Are you?
Iceman.
Iceman Kuklinski, yo. You're welcome.
That was awesome. Don't laugh too hard because you'll make yourself cough. Same to me. If I laugh too, I'm gonna start coughing.
So, all right.
Let's
go back to the criminal life.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. We know he was dabbling in robberies, burglaries, and that fancy copyrighted illegal porn.
Yeah.
I guess that was just his in. And then obviously we knew he was starting to get hired on by these mafia families to do their terrible deeds.
Mm-hmm.
But Richard was a lot of things, and even more so. He didn't just kill for the mafia. He killed for himself. He was very cold and didn't care if he even killed his friends. Like, a lot of people that he killed were just men he knew.
That's wild.
Men that he, like, randos on the street. Like, he just didn't care. If he didn't like you, if you looked at him funny, he murdered you.
Zero feeling.
None. No
empathy.
So
no remorse, no nothing.
Now, I am going to say this one thing. When he was giving his interviews, because we're going to go into that more, mm-hmm. There's a certain point, I believe it's in part 3, when he's talking to the psychiatrist,
mm-hmm.
Dr. Park Dietz. Anyways, he asks him if he felt anything or cared about anything. And he started to cry. And the only thing he was upset over was the fact that his family knew now mm-hmm. what he did.
Yep. He had to.
Because he was trying to keep all of his bad, evil, awful stuff away from the family.
And you know
when
what
they found out, mm-hmm. So that shows me
it's reminiscent of Israel Keys. Same
there's
thing.
Something in there.
He didn't want his daughter to know either.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't think that it's empathy. I don't think he feels bad. I think he just is embarrassed.
He was sorry his family saw the evil person he was, and he felt bad. And then he was sorry that he was no longer going to be able to be with them.
Right.
Because that was the actual part of life he enjoyed. He actually enjoyed being a part of his family.
So interesting.
It is. So, anyways, the other interesting weird thing is that he had, besides the murders when he was eventually picked up in the 80s, the only crime he was actually ever charged with was for writing he passed a bad check. Right?
Wow. That's fucking crazy.
All of the crap, all of the criminal behavior he did, and the only actual charge on file, which was actually dropped, was this bad check, passing a bad check.
Fucking
Not
insane.
not pirated porn, not robberies, not
Murder.
the burglary gang, but they actually dropped it because he agreed to pay the money back.
He's like, yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I passed a bad check. Here is what I owe you.
Yeah.
Don't arrest me.
Can I write you a new check?
Oh, that's from my closed account. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that. That's funny.
So, yeah. Now the question is, how did this man even get on the radar? If he was never picked up for stuff, if he was not even a thought in the police world, how did he all of a sudden get on the radar for them?
Somebody had to sell him out.
So this is actually what they found. Law enforcement officials had all these unsolved open murder cases.
Mm-hmm.
There were like 5 of them. The only thing that one of them noticed was that Richard was the last person known to have seen each of the victims alive.
Oh, shit.
So they set up an undercover sting operation, which included ATF.
Wow.
Because there were firearms involved, like firearms charges involved.
Right.
So they took a special agent from the ATF to go undercover for this sting operation. His name was Dominic. I'm going to butcher. Words are hard. Dominic Polifron.
Okay.
I don't know. He took 18 months to build his case and be around him day to day.
Yeah, but you have to do that. I mean, that is fucking awesome that he was able to do that.
Yeah. So because of he was secretly recording conversations he would have with Richard, and he would just openly talk about some of the murders.
Right. That would be so scary. Can you imagine?
I mean, this Dominic guy was like, he was Italian, so he could like play the part, I guess.
Word.
He's really good at being undercover.
It's like Donnie Brasco.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Joe Fatone.
So, because of the discussion of murders, in 1986, Richard was arrested and charged with murder, attempted murder, firearms violations, robbery, attempted robbery, and then he was indicted 4 or 5 murders that he was charged, that he was tied to.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
He was sentenced to life imprisonment, and in 2003, he received an additional 30-year sentence after confessing to the murder of a police officer.
Oh.
Yeah. He was incarcerated at the Trenton State Prison.
All right.
And once Richard was in prison, he did a lot of interviews and he spewed a lot of information.
A lot of murders.
He spewed so much that he talked about how he murdered people, how he felt about it, how he didn't feel about it, and believes that he might have killed upwards of 100 to 250 people. He just doesn't.
He doesn't know.
Mm-mm.
Because it was just normal.
Because it was every day. He's like, oh, that guy. Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot of fucking people.
Yeah. a lot. He did like to kill his victims in various ways, including shooting, bludgeoning, stabbing, dismemberment, using hand grenades.
He didn't have like a
Explosive.
normal. He didn't have a thing. He had all things.
It took a while to get to the thing he enjoyed more.
Okay.
But he also used chainsaws, fire, a bomb attached to a remote controlled toy car at one time.
Oh my God.
Like I said, like crazy.
Sounds like he's having fun out on the farm, but like he's killing people this way. This is fucking wild.
Right? He did claim that his favorite weapon was cyanide because it was difficult to detect during an autopsy and could easily be given. So eventually he learned that cyanide poisoning was his favorite method.
Unless you're one of those people that can smell cyanide. Just saying, like you'll get caught that way eventually. That's
right.
Yeah. That's a shitty way to go too. God.
Right?
So painful.
Yeah. So an interesting way he liked to do it was by injecting the victims food. Like they would go out to lunch, they would get a hamburger, he'd go to the bathroom
at a restaurant.
Or like, yeah, he'd inject cyanide into their food.
Holy shit.
Yeah. He'd also be in a crowd and have a spray bottle filled with a solution with cyanide and spray it on randoms in their faces. So like you're at the club and you're dancing and you're drugged and doing
really loved killing people.
That's what I'm saying. Like the amount of stories he had and the ways he killed people and the amount of like just random all the time and never was on anybody's radar. Like he picked the craziest places to go and kill people in open.
Is he still alive? He wouldn't still be alive, would he?
Mm-mm.
No. I mean, he could be, but he's not.
No, and I have a little bit about that, but
was his brain ever studied?
I don't know.
That would be such a fascinating like study to see.
Yeah, I know. So he liked the spray bottle because they would find that there was no link to him, because a lot of times they were there in the public, and he was really good at somehow murdering people that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like he'd bump into somebody or
right.
they just die later on of cyanide poisoning. So you can't link it or trace it.
It's so scary.
Yeah. He was pretty rough in a lot of things on how he murdered people sometimes too. Like he brutally tortured them before killing them, or he'd leave them in rat infested areas and be eaten alive.
Oh, and if you know anything about rats in fucking Jersey and New York, like good grief.
Right?
Yee.
The way he got his nickname, the Iceman, was that he would freeze some of his victims in a freezer, and it would make it more difficult to establish a timeline of death. Sometimes upwards of 2 years. One of his victims was 2 years in a freezer before he released it into the wild.
God. Holy shit. You just reminded me of a fucking news story I just saw this week.
Yeah.
In Pennsylvania. I think it was in Philly, actually. They like did a search on a home and there was like a fucking frozen body with a plastic bag over its head in a freezer in the house. Yeah. Maybe it was this guy.
Well,
but like
he also liked to put his victims in cars and have them be crushed by compactors or put in barrels. And sometimes he'd leave them on a park bench.
Like sitting.
I'm dead.
Pose them just to fuck with people.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Richard was feared by many because of his temper. He did have a short fuse, and on his time off, he would kill anyone that he felt gave him a dirty look. He was also 6'5" and weighed 300 pounds, so he was extremely intimidating, and he didn't take any crap from anyone. But I will say, sometimes you're tall and
Have you ever stood up
not.
to a 6'5" man?
My boyfriend is a 6'5" tall man.
Yeah, but you haven't stood up to him. He's a nice.
No, he's not stood
No,
up.
I mean like stood
not
up
tried to fight anybody. Well, in my work,
line
I've
of
had
work,
to deal
yeah.
with some really tall people, but I usually had some help.
Not fun.
I will say he had a rule that he would not ever kill women. So all his victims were male. One time while working for the Gambino family, he was tested by Roy DeMeo, which was maybe possibly one of his victims, where Roy selected a random person and ordered Richard to kill him. Richard walked up to a man walking a dog and shot him in the back of the head.
He didn't give a shit. Oh my God.
No, he gave no.
That poor dog. Oh my God.
Yeah, and from that point on, Richard was Roy DeMeo's favorite enforcer for the Gambino crime family. Used him for everything. And he was one of the ones that became his friend and that he killed and had no remorse over killing him. He said that he had to go.
Gotta do what you gotta do, man.
Yeah. Richard is quoted in saying, "By now you know what I liked most was the hunt, the challenge of what the thing was. The killing for me was secondary. I got no rise as such out of it, for the most part, but the figuring it out, the challenge, the stalking, and doing it right successfully excited me a lot. The greater the odds against me, the more juice I got out of it." He was an adrenaline junkie in the worst possible way.
Yeah. It was exciting. Very exciting. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Too exciting.
No. Now, unfortunately, a lot of the 100 to 250 murders Richard claims to have been involved in, there were only 5 murders that were proven him to be the killer of.
Oh man.
So we talked about Charlie Chase, who was bludgeoned as a teenager in 1949. We also have January 30th, 1980, George Maliband, a 42-year-old man who was shot and was found a week later in a 55-gallon drum.
Oh.
Richard admitted to shooting him 5 times, saying it was due to business.
Okay.
Whatever business it was. On March 14th, 1980, Richard killed Peter Calabra by shooting him with a shotgun. He was 36 years old. Law enforcement believed it was revenge carried out by his dead wife's relatives, who they believed Peter killed. His wife was murdered 3 years prior, and so they think this was a hit from the dead wife's family. Her brothers were thought to have been suspects, but until Richard confessed, the crime had remained unsolved. Richard claims he was paid to kill Peter by the Gambino crime family.
Shit, man. That's so freaking gnarly. I can't imagine like being the family of the wife that was murdered.
Yeah.
And like having all that heat and attention on you as suspect.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's where you would logically go first.
Yeah.
Jeez.
In July 1981, Richard killed Louis Mazgay, 50-year-old male, by shooting him in the head and then keeping his body in a freezer for 2 years. He wasn't found until September 1983. And this murder and discovery of the victim was one of the reasons the newspaper reporters sensationalized Richard frequently by using Iceman in the headlines.
All right.
To me, I would think he would be called the Iceman because he was cold and he had no feelings and was just
Yeah.
His heart was ice.
Yeah.
Well, that could be another reason why.
Makes sense.
April 29th, 1982, Richard shot, then fatally bludgeoned with a tire iron.
Ugh.
Yeah. A pharmacist named Paul Hoffman, age 51. Mr. Hoffman thought that he could make a big profit by purchasing stolen, you're not going to believe this, it's not drugs we would think of, but what do you have on hand all the time for?
Fucking ibuprofen, baby.
No,
Oh.
for your allergies.
Oh, Benadryl.
Tagamet.
Tagamet? Of all the fucking, are you fucking kidding me?
I am serious. It was Tagamet. It was a popular drug.
Had acid problems.
Yeah, they were treating peptic ulcers, and so he wanted to resell them through the pharmacy. That's hysterical, right? Oh, like wow. Tagamet of all things.
But I mean, it fucking works quicker than anything when you're having an allergic reaction. Which, by the way, if you're having stomach related reactions, if you suddenly feel bloated after eating something, that is part of an allergic reaction.
Right.
A handful of Tagamet, and that's according to my allergist. I don't just do this. They told me to take, when I'm having reactions, 4 Tagamet twice a day until the reaction stops. Right. And it works faster than Benadryl. It works faster than prednisone.
Yeah.
But it works best in combination.
Right. The cocktail.
Benadryl and prednisone.
I usually do the cocktail.
Lifesaver. Literally.
Yes.
Kristen has been saved.
Multiple times.
Fuck, thank God.
So yeah. So he believed that Richard was the guy to get him his black market Tagamet to supply him so he could sell them at his pharmacy. Very strange. Anyway, so Richard stated that he lured Hoffman to a rented garage and tried to shoot him, but the gun jammed, so instead he had to beat him with a tire iron.
Oh my God.
He then stuffed the body into a 55-gallon drum and left it outside of a motel. Jesus. Richard noticed that the drum had disappeared, but never heard what had happened to it.
Oh no.
And to this day, the body has never been recovered.
What the fuck?
Somebody body snatched.
Somebody fucking...
There's a body snatcher. Somebody took that drum and... What the heck?
What the fuck is wrong with people? Like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? But what the fuck is wrong with the guy that stole the barrel?
Right? They probably let it decompose underground and then now have it as a skeleton in their house.
Hey, I got this pharmacist skeleton that was killed by the Iceman. You know?
Hey. Hey. December 27th, 1982.
Well, that was
1942.
Only 40 years.
40 years.
No big deal.
No. 1982, Kristen. Richard killed 42-year-old Gary Smith. Gary Smith was part of his burglary gang, and he decided he needed to die. He just was done with him. He was done with him. So this is where he took the cyanide and fed him a hamburger laced with it.
Right.
But it was too slow for him. And the other burglary gang member, Daniel Deppner, helped strangle Smith with a lamp cord.
Jeez.
Apparently, had they let him die with the cyanide, it would have left him looking like he had a drug overdose.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, they couldn't wait that long. They just needed him to be dead. But this is the real kicker. After they strangled him, they put him in between the mattress and the box spring at this hotel room that they were in.
Sorry.
People were renting this room still.
Yeah.
they slept on top of this body in this bed for 4 days.
Okay, but have you seen the movie 4 Rooms?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a great movie. So they thought there was an odd smell, and eventually there were so many complaints that the hotel manager discovered the victim's body in the bed.
Gross, dude. Fucking gross.
4 days of people renting this room out and sleeping on the poor dead body. My
Sorry, I'm
God.
laughing, but Jesus Christ.
I mean, you can't make this up.
It's so gross.
So
that,
crazy.
I'm like cackling.
Dennis Nilsson vibes, except he was more the other way.
I would, if I found that, I would barf for sure.
So, then on May 14th, 1983, Daniel Deppner's body was found murdered by unknown causes, but most likely strangled and poisoned by Richard. Because Richard just felt like he had to go too. He was like, well, you helped me murder our burglary friend, and now you must die. Yeah. His last murder conviction was of Robert Pronga, who he murdered in 1984, or the body was found in 1984.
Mm-hmm.
He was Richard's mentor and taught him how to kill using cyanide and other ways to murder. Robert had an ice cream truck and would sometimes see a kid go to home, happy, nice dad, in the driveway, waiting for the son to come back with ice cream, and then somehow this ice cream man would decide to kill a dad. I don't know.
Fuck.
I gotta research this whole other murderer story.
Yeah.
But it's a whole other story. I think it'd be a whole nother episode or two.
Dash it away in the brain.
But anyways, he was charged. This was the last one he was charged with. It just goes to show you that Richard didn't care who he killed. Like, this dude was his friend. He was teaching. Apparently, he was a Vietnam War veteran, and he was the one who showed him, hey, why don't you put your body into an ice freezer and it will change things. And they were quote unquote friends, murdering buddies. They didn't murder together, but anyways.
Yikes.
Richard claimed that additionally he was involved in, there was claims that he was involved in Jimmy Hoffa's disappearance.
Everybody claims to be involved in that.
Right. But also in Roy DeMeo, Paul Castellano, and Carmine Galante.
Okay.
All mafia killings.
They're all like extremely fucking famous ones. And
right.
I honestly would believe it.
Yeah, but
he was
a lot of the claims are unfounded and just what he claimed. So we won't really ever know.
Yeah.
So, like I said, while in prison, he gave the numerous interviews telling the story of his life and would describe how and why he committed all the murders. There's a 3-parter HBO series. The first part came out in 1992. It's called Iceman Confesses: Secrets of a Mafia Hitman. Damn. Oh no, sorry. Iceman Tapes Conversations with a Killer was 1992.
Okay.
Iceman Confesses: Secrets of a Mafia Hitman was 2001.
Okay. Drink up, sister.
I'm trying to stave off the coughing.
It's working. You're doing very well. Very well.
Thank you. The Iceman and the Psychiatrist was 2003. There's also 2 biographies, Iceman, the True Killer, Cold-Blooded Killer in 1993. And the Iceman Confessions of a Mafia Contract Killer, 2006. Also the movie from 2012 called The Iceman. But a side note is that Richard's wife, according to their daughter Merrick, was paid a lot of money for him to do the HBO interviews.
Okay.
So she had to convince her husband to.
Right. Damn, dude.
So she got paid handsomely, supposedly. And Dr. Park Dietz said that Richard suffered from antisocial personality disorder and paranoid personality disorder.
You think?
Clearly.
Fuck.
Richard, unfortunately, only served 18 years of his lifetime in prison. Richard died on March 5th, 2006, at the age of 70.
Okay.
Possibly of Kawasaki's disease.
Oh.
But his death was labeled suspicious at first because Richard was supposed to testify against a former mobster who was being tried for murder.
Payback's a bitch.
Right? An autopsy was performed and they determined he died due to natural causes.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to say there's something hinky there, but
probably
no loss of life with him gone. So.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, whatever. Iceman, Schmeishman.
So there's a lot more information on his story. There's a lot of things to watch. There's a lot of things to see. Go watch the things if you need more. Hopefully I gave enough.
Yeah. God.
What I got.
Ugh.
I mean, there's a whole, the daughters or the children, you know, mother, wife. There's all kinds of other side stories to their lives,
I mean,
obviously.
He literally was an ice cold killer. And Iceman is the most appropriate name, as much as I don't like giving these guys those kinds of names.
Yeah.
But it makes sense completely.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. On that note, please tell your friends and rate and review if you can, please. If you wouldn't mind. Only 5 stars accepted, though. Just kidding. I mean, we really prefer 5 stars, but
yeah. And again, go check out Bones Coffee.
Yeah, check out
They have
Bones
a lot
Coffee.
of great coffees.
Yeah.
I got another Christmas one. Jingle Bones.
I sent Kristen a big old box
Oh
of
my
coffee.
gosh, I was so excited. I was so excited. And I really love their artwork because
yeah.
I mean, how can you not?
So they actually had a long sleeve shirt of that one. The
eggnog, really?
And it's basically like Clark's.
It's the Christmas Vacation.
The Christmas Vacation uncle.
Yeah.
Fucking forget
Where
Eddie.
he's saying,
Uncle Eddie.
Yeah.
It's Uncle Eddie.
Full.
Yeah.
It's
the shitter's full. Anyway, he's fucking hysterical. But Ben has the shirt and it is so funny.
That's awesome.
All right. Until next time. Ta-ta.
For now.
Thanks for listening to Crime, Coffee, and Crafts. If you love our podcast, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. This helps us more than you know. If you really love us and want to support us, go to our website at www.crimecoffeeandcrafts.com. From there, you can join our Patreon, shop our merch, and find us on social media.